This video is brought to you by Paperlike.
So what is going on, guys? Nando93 here with another video, and one of the biggest questions I get is which iPad Pro should I go for? You know, I've decided to go with the iPad Pro, but do I get the 11-inch or the 12.9-inch? So what I wanted to do is I finally got my hands on the 11-inch. I've been using it for about 2-3 weeks now, and I've been able to kind of see why people would gravitate towards the 11-inch, and I wanted to do a full comparison on the 12.9, which I've been using for over a year, and the 11-inch, which I've been using for less than a month at this point, right? So the biggest thing you need to know in terms of size physically is that the 11-inch is obviously 11 inches and it weighs 1.04 pounds, so about 1 pound exactly. And the 12.9-inch iPad Pro weighs 1.41 pounds. So it is a little bit heavier. Obviously, it's not gonna freaking weigh you down, but it's about 0.3, 0.4 pounds heavier than the 11-inch iPad Pro. And those are for the 2018 models. 2020 models might be a tad bit heavier just because of the camera bump, but I'm talking about less than 1/10 of a pound. So now I want to talk about all the actual screen real estate comparison, so let's hop right into that. Okay, so let's start with the dock apps, right? So you can clearly see that I've filled in basically as much as I can on both docks just to see how much screen real estate we get, right? Because that's what's going to be the biggest difference between these two. It's purely the size of the screen and what you can do with that screen, and whether or not you want it to be lighter, if that's more important to you, or if you want to be able to get more done and more screen real estate, if that's more important to you. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is how many apps you can actually put on your dock. So you can see the 11-inch, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 plus 3, so that's 16. Versus on the 12.9, I believe you can do up to 18. So it's 1, so you get 18 applications on the 12.9 dock versus 16 on the 11-inch dock. So if that's a big deal to you, obviously you go with the 12.9 or whichever one makes sense to you. But again, you can kind of bypass that whole idea if you just put folders into the dock, which is what I did. The next thing I want to touch on, and this might be a little bit difficult to show off because this iPad is on iPadOS 14 Beta 4 versus this one hasn't touched any of the betas. This one's still on the latest iPadOS 13 firmware or software, which I think is 13.6 at this point. So the widgets look a little bit different, but I do want to illustrate how much widget visibility you get on the home screen. So here you can see that I have 1, 2, 3.5 rows of widgets versus here you only get 1, 2, and 3. So again, you have less visibility on the widget side, which again, depending on what you need, that's the use case right there. So you get a little more visibility on the widgets with the 12.9 inch because again, it is a little bit longer. Okay, and the next thing I want to do is open up Safari. So if we open up Safari on both of these, I want to open up, let's just say ESPN on both of them just to see what kind of screen real estate we get and if there's any cutting of content for these, right? So let's go into ESPN. You can see that it's loading up, and from the looks of it, I don't know if you guys can tell, but do we get more visibility on ESPN on the 12.9 inch? I believe we do, because you can see that fantasy breakouts, it's a little bit higher up, and you already see the next storyline lined up down here, which is the NBA restarts, versus here you only see about 2/3 of the first article, and you have to scroll down to get to the NBA restart. So you do get more visibility into the actual websites that you're on. So up here, it goes all the way to New York Mets and Washington, versus over here, you go New York Mets and Washington, and then you also get Boston and Tampa Bay. So it extends a little bit to the right and a little bit down as well, so you get more screen real estate, and Safari takes advantage of that. So it's not like if you get the 12.9 inch, it's just a bigger version of this. You actually get more on the 12.9 inch in terms of visibility and data and everything that you need to see. And since I'm on this screen, let's pull up the keyboards on each one. So pull up the keyboards here to see what the differences are, right? So with the 12.9, you get a whole set of number row keys, right? Versus on the 11, you don't. You actually have to press onto the numbers to get a number. And if you go from left to right on the keyboard, you still get tab, caps lock, shift, and the emoji button. You get it all here, except like I said, you get one more row on top. And on the right-hand side, you see that there's a little bit of difference on the 11 and the 12.9. So you get the delete button, but then the delete button is actually on the top row for the 12.9. And then you get your slant symbol on this row versus here, you actually have to go into the numbers to get your slant symbol. So again, the keyboard's a little bit smaller, but I would not really recommend doing long form typing on either of these. That's why get yourself a keyboard, whether it is, you know, the original Folio one or the Magic Keyboard. get yourself a keyboard if you're gonna do long form typing. This is okay if you're gonna do a little bit of text writing or a little bit of emailing or a little bit of note taking, but do not write a full-length essay or a full-length project on this keyboard. So the next thing I wanted to do was open up the Notes app on both of these. And I wanted to open up a brand new note and see if you actually get more screen real estate, right? Because ideally you would. You should be able to write more on each one of these, right? So if I go over here and draw a circle, and then go over here and draw that same circle, you can clearly see that there's a lot less screen real estate when you're taking notes. So if you need a bigger canvas to take notes, be creative, or do your drawings or things like that, the 12.9 might be the way to go because you do get more screen real estate as you would with a 12.9 inch version. The next application I want to pull up is actually Lumafusion, because a lot of people are moving to the iPad Pro for Lumafusion essentially because it's a cheaper alternative to Final Cut Pro, and it works on the iPad. It's the only one that does work on the iPad that isn't iMovie. So you can see right here that in terms of, again, screen real estate, you get more out of the 12.9, right? And then the actual viewfinder is a little bit bigger, your timeline is longer. I'm able to add these in without really taking up too much space versus here, if I add those portions up, then it's a lot smaller and it gets in the way. So that's what we're dealing with, guys. Shout out over here. In terms of Lumafusion, you get a bigger viewfinder, you get a longer timeline. Again, everything still works exactly the same on the 11 inch, it's just a little more shrunken down, right? In terms of power, in terms of longevity, in terms of what it can functionally do, it's the same. It's just a matter of, do you want a bigger one? And then there's three more things that I do want to touch on. The first one has to be multitasking. So if I open up a Safari page, let's stay with that ESPN, and let's actually open up another ESPN tab, just again, for comparison's sake, move this over, and now we're multitasking. So let's pull up both ESPN tabs, see what it's showing me. Okay, now we're gonna go over here. Now we're gonna go into this Safari, also open up a new ESPN tab, multitask, and see what we're dealing with in terms of sizing over here. So this one's taking a second to actually load itself up. Okay, we're good to go. And again, the screen real estate situation is exactly the same, right? You get more visibility into the actual data on the screen when you're multitasking on the 12.9 than the 11 inch. And again, multitasking on the 11 inch is not super ideal, at least for me. Maybe if you're just watching something on the side, or if you just have Spotify playing on the side, that's cool, but it's not big enough for what I need it for, essentially, for multitasking. So I tend to avoid multitasking on the 11 inch. So I did want to show off the speakers because iPad Pro speakers are actually amazing for both of them, honestly. So what I want to do is, I want to play two videos of mine and just compare the actual volume. We're going to start with the iPad Pro first. So I'm going to turn the volume all the way up. This is my own video, so hopefully I don't get copyrighted, and just listen to the actual sound. So if you guys haven't seen that video, go check it out. But now let's try the 12.9 inch. I'll let you guys decide. So you can tell that the actual 12.9 is a little bit louder, and again, because of physics, there's more room for the actual speakers to breathe, so you're gonna get a little better sound quality. But guys, the 11 inch, especially for the size, both of these, they're super, super loud. And I've compared this to other laptops, I've compared it to other like secondary monitors with built-in speakers, and this always takes the cake, guys, always takes the cake. So don't just buy the 12.9 based on the speakers. It is a little bit louder, but not by much, and in terms of quality, it's pretty identical. And then the last thing I do want to touch on is battery life. It's been tough to actually test these out because they're always plugged in. The iPad 12.9 actually has a physically bigger battery, but also it's got to push more watts to the screen itself. So my synopsis is, if you buy both of these at the same exact time, which I don't know why you would, but the battery on the 12.9 is going to last a little bit longer. Now, given that I bought this very recently, and this is about a year old, the battery on this is lasting a little bit longer just because the battery on this one is a little bit older at this point. And this is also always on the Magic Keyboard, and the Magic Keyboard drains that battery. So overall, this one's gonna get you more battery life in my opinion, but this one is no slouch either. And like I said, this one's newer, so the battery is a little bit better on this one, even though this still is a 2018 version. So that's pretty much the in-depth comparison that I have here, guys. So let's go back to the normal view. So before this video actually ends, I wanted to give a huge shout out to the sponsor Paperlike for sponsoring this video. whenever people get their iPad, the first thing I recommend is to get a screen protector, and I always steer them towards Paperlike. I've been using Paperlike for over a year now, and it's above and beyond all the other screen protectors. So this screen protector was made specifically for the iPad and the Apple Pencil. It wants to give you that resistance that paper would give you when writing on a piece of paper and then using a number 2 pencil. You hear the scratches of the pencil against the actual paper. It also protects the pencil tip, so it makes your pencil last longer. And a lot of people don't know that you're supposed to replace your Apple Pencil tips every 6 to 12 months. I haven't yet to replace my Apple Pencil tip, and I'm at 1 year of using that Apple Pencil. So highly recommend trying out Paperlike. I'm gonna link it below for you guys. So thank you so much to Paperlike for sponsoring this video. So that's gonna do it for this video, guys. I did want to recap a little bit on the 11 and 12.9 inch. So in the intro, you did see me grab the 12.9 inch because that's what I would personally choose. But for instance, there are use cases and scenarios where I would prefer the 11 inch. The 11 inch is a lot more portable. You can grab it and just throw it in a bag. You don't need a dedicated backpack for your 11 inch because it's not the size of a laptop. And also, I use it with the OG Slim Folio keyboard case, so it's even thinner. I don't have the Magic Keyboard for that one. So some of the use cases for that is actually, I would rather have that 11 inch on my lap by itself on the couch. For instance, yesterday I pulled my iPad Pro 12.9 off the Magic Keyboard to use it as a tablet, and I was watching a basketball game, and after a little while it was a little tedious to hold on to because it was heavier, it was bigger, and it wasn't comfortable. So that is a use case where I prefer the 11 inch. But when I'm getting productivity stuff done, when I'm using it to edit videos, I prefer the 12.9 inch just because it's more screen real estate and I'm able to see more and do more. So my overall recommendation is get yourself a 12.9 inch iPad Pro if you're doing it for work. And I think most people that are using an iPad Pro are using it for work. If not, they would get the original iPad 10.2 or an iPad Air just for media consumption. So that's my recommendation for you guys. So hopefully this helps somebody out in making a decision. Again, this is applicable for the 2018 and the 2020 iPad Pros. And thank you so much for watching. If you made it to the end, leave a comment below. Super thankful for you guys for making it to the end. And until next time, peace.